Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking the ultimate blueprint of the world's largest democracy, India. Governing a nation of this magnitude, where voting booths are literally set up everywhere, from dense jungles all the way up to the high Himalayas, it's just an absolute masterclass in scale, structure, and civic participation. Okay, let's dive into this and see exactly how this colossal political architecture actually works. Just think about that number for a second. Over 1 billion people. Imagine trying to organize, govern, and actually provide for a population of that massive size, spread out across 28 distinctly unique states and 8 union territories. It is a completely awe-inspiring administrative undertaking, right? To make sure this vast engine runs smoothly, India relies on a parliamentary system rooted in one foundational document, the Constitution, which officially took effect on January 26, 1950. That Constitution is, it's the absolute bedrock of the whole shebang we're about to cover.
So here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the democratic blueprint, move right along to elections, break down the central and state governments, step inside parliament, and finally, look at the judiciary system.
Let's kick things off with Part 1, the democratic blueprint and its 3 pillars of power. To really get how India's government functions, you have to understand how power is distributed, making sure no single entity holds all the cards. The whole system is held up by 3 vital pillars. First, you've got the central government. They handle the big picture stuff. Then the state government, managing the regional day-to-day affairs. And finally, the judiciary, the independent court system. Think of it kind of like a giant 3-legged stool. If any one of those legs gives out, the entire democratic structure just collapses. Together, they work perfectly in tandem to make the laws, run the country, and ensure justice for every single citizen.
Moving right along to Section 2, Elections, the people's voice.
Now, a democracy is obviously nothing without its builders, and that's the citizens themselves. Every 5 years, the entire country goes through this massive, meticulously coordinated democratic exercise. Here's exactly how it plays out. Step 1, general elections. Every Indian citizen 18 or older has the fundamental right to vote. And this monumental undertaking, it's overseen by the Election Commission of India to make absolutely sure it's free and fair. Step 2, the political party that wins a majority of seats across the constituencies claims victory. And Step 3, following that win, the Prime Minister is officially appointed to lead the country. But what happens if things aren't so clear-cut?
Now, what's really interesting about this setup is how the system adapts when the vote is actually split. In situations where no single party manages to pull off an outright majority, a coalition government is formed. That basically means 2 or more political parties have to sit down, negotiate, compromise, and join forces to form the government. It's a really fascinating display of political teamwork, all required just to keep the democratic engine running smoothly.
All right, on to Section 3, the central government, basically the national headquarters.
Zooming out to the macro level, this is where the really big decisions, the ones that impact the entire nation, are made. The central government isn't really dealing with your localized neighborhood issues. Their key focuses are strictly of national importance. We're talking national defense, keeping the massive railway network running, cross-country communication, and foreign affairs. And to handle all these massive portfolios, the central government relies on 4 key players: the president, the parliament, the prime minister, and the council of ministers.
Let's zoom in a bit on Section 4, inside the parliament, the lawmakers.
To truly grasp how this works, we need to step inside the official lawmaking body of India, where members of parliament, or MPs as they're called, debate and draft the future of the country. The parliament is actually split into 2 distinct houses, and comparing them side by side reveals a highly balanced design. On one side, we have the Lok Sabha, also known as the House of the People, or the lower house. It holds up to 550 members who are elected directly by the citizens for 5-year terms. And hey, if you ever want to run for a seat here, you've got to be at least 25 years old. Then on the other side is the Rajya Sabha, the upper house. This house holds up to 250 members, but they aren't directly elected by the general public. Instead, they're elected by members of state assemblies, and some are even nominated directly by the president for special achievements in arts, science, literature, or social service. And crucially, unlike the Lok Sabha, the Rajya Sabha is a permanent house, meaning it literally cannot be dissolved.
Sitting above both of these houses is the president. The president is the official head of India. But you won't actually see the president's name on a general election ballot. Instead, they're elected indirectly for a 5-year term by an electoral college. And that college is made up of the elected members of the Lok Sabha, the Rajya Sabha, and the state legislative assemblies.
And this brings us to a super vital distinction. While the president is the head of India, the prime minister is the head of the government. So after the general election, the president formally appoints the leader of the majority party as the prime minister. The prime minister is the one who then actually forms the union cabinet and the council of ministers to run the country's day-to-day operations at that massive national level.
Okay, moving down to Section 5, the state government, the regional offices. Look, India is simply way too big to be run entirely from one central headquarters. So we're stepping down from the national level now to see how each of the 28 states uses its own completely separate government machinery. While the central government is busy worrying about foreign policy and the military, state governments are incredibly focused on localized issues that directly impact citizens' daily lives. They make laws specific to their own state and manage critical sectors, things like education, agriculture, public health, and other pressing local matters.
And just like the central government has a split in leadership, well, so do the states. Check out this parallel structure. At the state level, the governor acts as the official head of the state. They're actually appointed by the President of India for a 5-year term. On the flip side, the chief minister acts as the head of the state government. Very much like the prime minister nationally, the chief minister is the leader of the majority party after state elections, and they're responsible for forming a state-level council of ministers.
So, the crucial point is this. When citizens actually go to the polls for state elections, they are casting their votes to elect their local MLAs, or members of the Legislative Assembly. If you're an Indian citizen 18 or older, your vote directly determines who gets to sit in this assembly to advocate for your specific regional needs.
And finally, Section 6, the judiciary system, protecting the Constitution.
We've arrived at the final pillar, the independent security system, designed to make absolutely sure justice is served fairly across the board. We've talked about the lawmakers and the administrators, but the court system scales right alongside the government itself, and this brilliantly illustrates that structure. At the foundational, local level, you have the district courts, present in every single district. Move one step up to the state level and you'll find a high court for each state. Finally, at the very peak, sitting right there at the national level, is the Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court is the ultimate, undeniable authority in the country. Headed by the Chief Justice of India alongside a bench of other judges, they have the absolute final say. When the Parliament makes laws and the government implements them, it's the Supreme Court and the broader judiciary that ensures those laws are fully constitutional and that justice is truly upheld for everyone.
Which brings us to the absolute most vital part of this entire architecture, you. This massive apparatus of Parliament, the Supreme Court, the Prime Minister, the Chief Ministers, it all exists to maintain peace, drive development, and sustain democracy itself. But here's the catch. None of it works without the active participation of the people. Learning about this structure, that's just the first step. Participating is the next. When you look at the sheer, mind-boggling scale of the world's largest democracy, the ultimate question is this. When it's your turn to step up to that ballot box, how will your voice shape the future of this magnificent machine? Thank you so much for exploring with us today, and we'll catch you in the next explainer.